Take a moment and think. How old do you feel inside? Not your chronological age, but your internal sense of self. If you've ever looked in the mirror and felt a shocking disconnect between your reflection and how you genuinely feel, you're not alone. Most people report feeling 10 to 15 years younger than their actual age. It's unsettling, almost like living a split life, isn't it? But here's what I didn't expect. This feeling isn't just common, it's profound. Carl Jung called this the ageless self, a timeless inner flame unchanged by physical aging. And this part, it broke the entire system, because the psychology behind why your internal self freezes at a certain age could fundamentally alter how you view your past, present, and future. The aging crisis, why we fear getting older. Have you noticed how our society treats aging as a problem to be solved rather than a natural part of life? The moment we spot our first gray hair or notice a new wrinkle forming around our eyes, panic sets in. We rush to the pharmacy for anti-aging creams or consider more drastic measures like Botox or cosmetic surgery. This isn't just about vanity, it's about fear. A deep-rooted fear that permeates our culture and shapes how we view the later chapters of our lives. This fear isn't accidental. It's the product of a society that has systematically devalued aging through persistent messages that equate youth with worth and aging with decline. We call this ageism, prejudice or discrimination based on a person's age, and its impact goes far beyond hurt feelings or damaged self-esteem. But what happens when we view aging through a positive lens instead? The answer may surprise you. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people with positive perceptions of aging lived an average of 7.5 years longer than those with negative perceptions. That's nearly a decade of life potentially gained or lost based simply on our beliefs about growing older. The anti-aging industry stands as perhaps the most visible manifestation of our collective fear. Valued at over $60 billion globally, this industry sells the promise of erasing time itself. Every advertisement reinforces the message that aging must be fought and defeated. The language reveals our cultural attitudes. We combat aging, seek age-defying solutions, and look for ways to turn back the clock. Consider Maria, a vibrant 68-year-old artist who stopped showing her work publicly after gallery owners began treating her differently. "They would speak louder and slower," she explained, "as if my age had affected my hearing and comprehension." This internalized ageism eventually led her to question her own abilities, despite decades of expertise. Even more concerning is how early these negative attitudes take root. Studies show that children as young as 6 already display negative attitudes toward older adults, absorbing prejudices from cartoons depicting older characters as confused or grumpy, from birthday cards joking about aging as a tragedy, and from casual remarks made by adults. Meanwhile, media reinforces these beliefs relentlessly. Television and film regularly depict older adults as technologically inept, physically frail, or cognitively impaired. When older characters are portrayed positively, they're often exceptional for their age, as if competence in later life is surprising rather than expected. These persistent messages create a dangerous self-fulfilling prophecy. When we expect cognitive decline, we're less likely to challenge ourselves mentally. When we anticipate physical limitations, we might avoid activities that maintain strength and flexibility. Studies show older adults exposed to negative age stereotypes perform worse on memory tests and show decreased physical function compared to those exposed to positive stereotypes. What makes this situation particularly absurd is that we're living longer than ever before, while simultaneously dreading these additional years. Medical advances have extended our lifespans dramatically, yet our culture hasn't developed a positive vision of what these extra decades might offer. The consequences extend beyond individual suffering to affect society as a whole. When we dismiss the potential contributions of older adults, we lose access to their wisdom, experience, and perspective. We create unnecessary dependency by assuming incapacity rather than supporting continued independence. We spend billions treating preventable conditions that result from beliefs about inevitable decline rather than investing in programs that promote vitality throughout life. The Rising Sun, Jung's revolutionary view of aging. This societal fear of aging creates a tragic irony. We're living longer than ever while dreading the very years we've gained. But what if the second half of life isn't about fading away, but actually about finally waking up? Carl Jung, one of history's most influential psychologists, proposed exactly this revolutionary perspective on aging that completely inverts our conventional understanding. Jung introduced the rising sun analogy, a powerful metaphor suggesting that the afternoon of life should be viewed not as a sunset, but as a sunrise. Visual cue, animation of sun rising over horizon as metaphor for midlife. While most of society sees aging as a downward trajectory, Jung insisted it's actually an upward one. The second half of life presents an opportunity for psychological growth and development impossible during youth. This perspective counters our culture's youth obsession. We're bombarded with messages suggesting our 20s and 30s represent the peak of human existence. According to this narrative, everything that follows is merely a gradual diminishing of what once was. Jung rejected this framework. He believed the first half of life is largely spent fulfilling biological imperatives and societal expectations, establishing careers, building families, and securing our place in the world. These tasks often require us to suppress aspects of our true nature to conform to external demands. We become what others need us to be, rather than who we truly are. The turning point often arrives in midlife. Jung himself experienced a profound psychological crisis at age 38 that fundamentally altered his understanding of human development. After breaking with his mentor Sigmund Freud in 1913, Jung entered what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period of intense inner turmoil that lasted several years. During this time, he experienced vivid dreams and visions that he meticulously recorded. Far from viewing this crisis as evidence of decline, Jung saw it as the beginning of his authentic psychological development. Through this process, he discovered that the second half of life offers the opportunity to become whole by integrating all aspects of our personality, including those we've previously denied or repressed. This insight led to one of Jung's most famous quotes: "We cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie." This statement highlights the need for a complete reorientation in how we approach our later years. According to Jung, youth is naturally focused outward, on achievement and expansion. The mature individual turns inward to discover dimensions of existence that transcend material concerns. While society often dismisses this inward turn as retreat, Jung saw it as accessing deeper wisdom and meaning. Our youth-obsessed culture rarely acknowledges the unique gifts that only come with age: psychological freedom from social conformity, deeper capacity for meaningful relationships, enhanced emotional regulation, greater wisdom in navigating life's complexities, and a more nuanced understanding of both joy and suffering. Jung believed these qualities emerge naturally in the second half of life if we embrace the journey. The rising sun analogy challenges us to rethink aging. Rather than seeing our later years as a time of decline, we can view them as a period of ascension, moving toward greater authenticity, wisdom, and psychological integration. This perspective doesn't deny physical changes, but suggests that inner development can continue regardless of bodily limitations. This understanding of aging transforms how we approach our later years. Instead of clinging to youth, we can embrace each stage of life for its unique opportunities. Rather than fearing what we might lose, we can anticipate what we gain: deeper self-knowledge, freedom from earlier constraints, and the chance to become more fully ourselves. Jung's perspective invites us to ask, what would change if we approached aging as a process of becoming? How might our culture transform if we valued the wisdom of age as much as the vitality of youth? The neuroplastic revolution, science catches up to Jung. For nearly a century, scientists insisted our brains were on an inevitable downward trajectory after early adulthood, a biological fact that seemed to contradict Jung's optimistic view of later life. Then something unexpected happened in brain labs around the world that would have made Jung smile. In the mid-20th century, neuroscience operated on a fundamental assumption. Your brain reached its peak in early adulthood, and from there, it was all downhill. The brain cell death doctrine became so entrenched that textbooks stated with certainty that adults lose approximately 10,000 brain cells per day, a staggering 3.65 million neurons annually, with no possibility of renewal. This grim narrative perfectly matched society's broader view of aging, a story of inevitable decline. But in the early 1990s, everything changed. Researchers discovered neurogenesis, the brain's ability to generate entirely new neurons, in adult mammals. By 1998, scientists confirmed that humans continue producing new brain cells throughout life, particularly in the hippocampus, a region crucial for learning and memory. Like an old clock believed broken suddenly starting to tick again, this discovery upended decades of neuroscientific dogma. The implications transformed our understanding of human potential. Researchers discovered that the aging brain actively creates new connections when learning occurs. At the University of California, scientists found that adults in their 70s and 80s who learned complex new skills, from digital photography to quilting, showed memory improvements matching those of adults decades younger. The key wasn't simply mental stimulation, but pushing beyond comfort zones, precisely what Jung described as essential for continued psychological development. Even more remarkable was the discovery that the older brain possesses unique advantages. While processing speed may decrease, pattern recognition improves. The aging brain excels at seeing the bigger picture, integrating diverse information and recognizing meaningful connections, qualities Jung associated with the wisdom of later life. Neuroscientists now understand that aging brains increase in bilateral activity, with both hemispheres working together more efficiently, creating an integrated neural network similar to Jung's vision of psychological integration in later life. Consider Elaine, a 92-year-old former teacher who learned coding at 85 and now develops apps for seniors. Brain scans revealed her neural networks resembled those of someone decades younger. Her life exemplifies what researchers call super-agers, people in their 80s and beyond whose brains function like much younger adults. At Northwestern University, scientists discovered super-agers have distinctive brain structures, particularly a thicker anterior cingulate cortex, an area important for maintaining attention, than typical 50 to 60-year-olds. What separates super-agers from others isn't genetics alone. Their lives share common elements: social connection, lifelong learning, overcoming significant challenges, and maintaining purposeful outlooks. They embody the qualities Jung described in his vision of healthy psychological aging, continuing their individuation process and maintaining psychological flexibility. The parallels between modern neuroscience and Jung's insights are striking. Jung intuited what neuroscience would later confirm. Psychological development continues throughout life. His emphasis on integrating different aspects of the psyche mirrors what we now know about increased bilateral brain activity in healthy aging. Jung's understanding that wisdom develops through confronting life's challenges aligns with research showing that learning preserves cognitive function. Recent studies on grandmother neurons, brain cells responding to familiar concepts, suggest our brains contain ingrained patterns activating in response to universal human experiences, similar to Jung's archetypes. These patterns help us process information efficiently as we age, enabling the pattern recognition characteristic of mature cognition. Neuroplasticity research confirms that your brain remains adaptable throughout life, capable of reorganizing itself in response to new experiences. This biological capacity for change provides the neurological foundation for Jung's psychological model of continued development with age, transforming our understanding of human potential across the lifespan. Individuation, the path to psychological youth. The science confirms our brains are built for lifelong growth, but Jung believed something more profound was at stake: the discovery of your true self. What appears as aging might actually be psychological stagnation, while the path to eternal youth lies hidden in a process most people never begin, a journey Jung called individuation. At its core, individuation is Jung's term for becoming who you truly are. Individuation means integrating all aspects of your personality into a coherent whole, including parts you've rejected or never recognized. What makes this concept revolutionary for our understanding of aging is simple, yet profound. The more individuated you become, the more psychologically youthful you remain. Individuation creates psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt, learn, and respond to life with freshness rather than rigid patterns. While our bodies inevitably age, our minds can maintain or even increase their adaptability. Consider the difference between someone who responds with the same reactions they developed in their teens versus someone who continues to evolve their perspective throughout life. Have you noticed this contrast in your own life or among people you know? Most people follow what Jung called the persona, the social mask we adopt to fit into society's expectations. We learn to be responsible adults, follow career paths, build identities around external achievements, and rarely question whether these paths reflect our authentic selves. Over decades, this adherence to external expectations without internal exploration creates psychological rigidity, the true aging of the mind. The individuation process resembles creating a mosaic. Each fragment of yourself, even the darkest pieces, contributes to a complete and vibrant whole. The first major stage involves confronting your shadow, those aspects you've rejected, denied, or hidden from consciousness. These might include drives deemed unacceptable, abandoned talents, or suppressed emotions. Shadow work often begins during a midlife crisis, when strategies that worked in youth no longer satisfy. The second stage involves integrating your anima or animus, the contrasexual elements of your personality. For men, the anima represents feminine qualities like emotional connectivity and intuition. For women, the animus embodies masculine energies of assertiveness and logical analysis. The final stage involves encountering what Jung called the self, the organizing center of the personality that transcends the ego, bringing profound meaning and purpose. History offers numerous examples of individuation at work. Georgia O'Keeffe produced innovative art in her 70s and 80s. Abraham Maslow developed his most influential ideas about self-actualization in his later years. Miguel Cervantes wrote Don Quixote at 58, after enduring slavery and imprisonment. Consider also Maya Angelou, who became increasingly authentic and outspoken with age, or Frank Lloyd Wright, who designed the Guggenheim Museum at 91. Even among everyday people we see this pattern: the retired teacher who finally pursues her passion for painting, or the widower who discovers unexpected joy in community service. The freedom individuation brings is unparalleled. When you're no longer trying to prove your worth through external achievements, you can express your authentic self without apology. This liberation explains why some older adults grow more comfortable in their skin, more willing to speak their truth, and less concerned with fitting in. Physical aging can actually facilitate psychological youth. As external pressures diminish, the second half of life presents a unique opportunity to turn inward and discover dormant aspects of yourself. This is why Jung insisted that, thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. What makes individuation particularly relevant today is how it counters our culture's obsession with external markers of youth. While billions are spent on anti-aging products, true youthfulness comes from something no serum can provide: the integration of your full self. How might your relationship with aging transform if you viewed later years as a time for unprecedented inner development rather than inevitable decline? What if each decade brought not just physical changes, but deeper authenticity and psychological freedom? The shadow and the eternal self, beyond time. Have you ever wondered why time seems to speed up as you get older, and what that means about the nature of your consciousness? While we've explored how individuation creates psychological youth, there's a deeper mystery at work beneath the surface of consciousness. What would change if you discovered that the parts of yourself you've hidden away or rejected throughout life contain your greatest fears and your untapped vitality? Jung believed this shadow self holds the energy you need to experience time differently as you age. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious gives us a way to understand why our experience of aging feels so paradoxical. Unlike your personal unconscious, which contains your individual forgotten or repressed experiences, the collective unconscious is a reservoir of psychological material shared by all humanity. Jung believed this deeper layer of mind contains archetypes, universal patterns that appear across cultures and throughout history. These archetypes exist outside the boundaries of linear time. Imagine the wise elder within you, carrying wisdom that transcends your years, or the eternal child, holding wonder that remains undimmed by age. When you tap into these archetypal energies, you're connecting with something eternal that transcends your physical body. This is what Jung called the self with a capital S, the organizing center of your entire personality that exists beyond the limitations of time and space. Our society trains us to identify almost exclusively with our physical bodies. We see wrinkles forming and think, I am aging, I am declining. Jung would suggest this identification creates our fear of aging and death. When your identity is wrapped up in your physical form, its changes become existentially threatening. Consider how differently you might experience aging if you recognized that part of your being exists completely outside of time. The archetypes within the collective unconscious don't age or deteriorate. They represent timeless psychological patterns accessible regardless of your chronological age. This is where Jung's concept of the shadow becomes particularly relevant. Your shadow contains everything you've rejected about yourself, qualities deemed unacceptable by your family, culture, or society. Think of the executive who suppressed her creative impulses for decades, then finds herself drawn irresistibly to painting in her 60s. The shadow forms in childhood when you learn which aspects of yourself earn approval and which don't. The shadow holds tremendous psychological energy. When you begin consciously integrating these rejected aspects, you liberate all that bound-up energy, creating an explosion of creativity, spontaneity, and psychological youth. Marion Woodman, a renowned Jungian analyst, experienced this renewal in her 60s. After decades of academic work, she began exploring her shadow through dream work and discovered a deeply suppressed, sensual, embodied aspect of herself. As she integrated this material, she described experiencing a kind of vitality I never knew in youth. Writing her most influential books after 60, and teaching into her 80s with remarkable energy. When we're young, everything is new, requiring full conscious attention. As we age, routine dominates, and consciousness skims across experiences rather than fully engaging them. We experience time as linear and accelerating, what the Greeks called chronos. But shadow integration brings us back to the present moment with fresh awareness, shifting our perception to what Jung called kairos, timeless, meaningful moments that exist outside linear time. By embracing your shadow self, you recover qualities typically associated with youth, spontaneity, wonder, play, and emotional authenticity. You gain access to energies preserved in your unconscious, while your conscious personality aged. This integration creates a wholeness that transcends the limitations of chronological age, allowing you to experience time with the depth and richness that makes each moment feel expansive rather than fleeting. Practical techniques: renewing your psychological youth. The wholeness that emerges from shadow integration doesn't just happen. It requires specific practices Jung refined throughout his lifetime. Most people assume psychological aging is inevitable, but research has uncovered something remarkable. Certain techniques can actually reverse the mental patterns we associate with aging, allowing adults in their 60s and 70s to demonstrate the neural flexibility typically only seen in much younger people. Changing lifelong thought patterns about aging requires commitment. The mental grooves created through decades of thinking, "I'm getting older," become deeply etched neural pathways. Breaking these patterns demands consistent effort and a willingness to embrace discomfort as you develop new ways of relating to yourself. Jung developed several powerful techniques that work together to facilitate this transformation. Active imagination stands at the forefront, a structured method of engaging with the unconscious through dialogue and visualization. Unlike passive daydreaming, it involves conscious conversation with symbols emerging from your deeper mind. To practice active imagination. 1. Sit quietly and focus on a specific emotion or problem. 2. Allow an image to form representing this issue. 3. Engage with this image. Ask questions. Listen for responses. Notice how the image transforms during your dialogue. This practice bypasses the logical mind, conditioned by societal views of aging, and taps directly into archetypal energies that remain vibrant regardless of chronological age. Dream analysis complements active imagination by revealing aspects of ourselves that retain childlike qualities. Jung viewed dreams as communications guiding individuation. When working with dreams, keep a journal by your bed for immediate recording upon waking. Note recurring characters or symbols representing undeveloped potentials. Look for figures displaying qualities like spontaneity or wonder. Watch for children or younger versions of yourself in dreams. Modern research has validated Jung's approaches. Studies at UCLA show that meditation, another technique Jung valued, affects aging at the cellular level. Long-term meditators have longer telomeres, protective chromosome caps, than non-meditators of the same age, suggesting biological age reversal. Brain scans also reveal increased gray matter density in learning and memory regions, directly counteracting typical age-related decline. For those finding meditation challenging, creative expression offers an alternative path. Jung himself painted and sculpted, believing artistic creation taps into timeless archetypal energies. A University of North Carolina study found adults in 8-week creative arts programs showed significant improvements in cognitive flexibility and problem-solving, qualities typically associated with younger brains. Researchers noted that artistic expression reactivated dormant neural pathways, essentially waking up sleeping parts of the brain. Symbolic journaling ties these practices together, combining writing and imagery to document your inner journey. By recording dreams, active imagination experiences, and everyday synchronicities, you create a map of your individuation process. The transformative potential of these integrated practices appears in numerous case studies. One retired executive, aged 72, reported feeling more alive than I did at 30 after 6 months of dream work and active imagination. His family noticed concrete changes, increased spontaneity, greater emotional expressiveness, and renewed curiosity, all indicators of successful individuation. These techniques share a common thread, reconnecting you with the timeless dimension of consciousness. Through regular engagement with the unconscious, you shift your identity from the aging physical body to what Jung called the eternal self, the archetypal core of personality that exists beyond time and remains forever young. Have you ever noticed how the fear of aging dissolves when you glimpse something timeless within yourself? Understanding the eternal self, this core aspect of your being that exists beyond chronological time, transforms how you experience growing older. When you recognize that your deepest self transcends physical changes, aging becomes fascinating. Aging transforms into a journey toward wholeness rather than decline. The invitation stands. Begin your individuation journey today. Whether you're 20 or 80, the path to psychological youth remains open. Your authentic self awaits discovery as the most natural expression of who you've always been, like a sunrise breaking through clouds, illuminating the eternal flame within your personal mosaic. If this message resonated with you on a deep level, you're not alone. Your journey to psychological youth and inner wholeness starts here, now, in this moment. Imagine, what if aging isn't about losing your youth, but discovering who you were always meant to be? At this moment, I invite you to do something very powerful. Leave a comment below and let me know how old you feel on the inside, your inner age, and what one thing you're going to begin doing today to love yourself. Your comment might encourage another on their own journey. And if this resonated with your heart, help share this life-changing message. Hit like to let YouTube know more people need to see this. Subscribe and ring the bell. Join our community of personal transformation, lifelong vitality, and deep authenticity. Share this video with someone who needs to rethink aging and rediscover themselves. Because here's the thing, Carl Jung hoped we'd all realize. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Massive thanks for watching. Keep exploring, keep growing, keep becoming. See you in the next video.